Once I was out of the Christian music industry, I realized like a lot of the damage that was done while I was in it.
Music has historically been one of the most prominent and accessible forms of worship in Christianity. Music is a unifier that can transcend culture, language, and distance. But what happens when that experience gets commodified? Enter the contemporary Christian music industry. Emerging as a genre in the late 60s, musician Larry Norman pioneered contemporary Christian music as we know it today.
All I'm really trying to say is why should the devil have all the good music?
He married his rock and roll style with a spiritual, Jesus-loving message and brought Christian music mainstream, kind of. Since then, CCM has grown into a multi-million-dollar industry, encompassing nearly every musical style, but united in one lyrical theme: praising the Lord. Between publishing, radio play, licensing music to churches, and live shows, this multifaceted industry is not slowing down. Major artists continue to sell out arenas, headline major festivals, and even appear on The Ellen Show, which is a whole thing. I was raised on Christian music. I know pretty much all the words to every DC Talk song, Switchfoot, Reliant K, Newsboys, not to brag. But as I got older, I realized that as a queer Christian, a lot of this music and the artists behind it would not be welcoming or affirming of who I am. So I set out to check in with the industry as it stands today. In an industry that's built on faith, with the product being a deeper connection to God through music, who is being championed? And who is being left behind? We all know Nashville is Music City, but it's not just country music they're exporting. Nashville is home to the majority of Christian artists, labels, and publishing companies. It's a uniquely positioned city at the intersection of Bible Belt ideology and entertainment sensibilities. My first stop is at the home of Lauren Deliri. Lauren and her sister performed in a Christian pop band called Love Collide. They were Juno Award-winning touring artists with 3 studio albums. Recently, Lauren began deconstructing her faith and pinpointing the ways her beliefs weren't compatible with the pressures of the Christian music industry.
Being in the Christian music industry, obviously you have to adhere to purity culture, especially as girls. It's this weird fine line between like you have to obviously look cool, but also not be like revealing. I remember one time we were doing a show, I lifted my hands in worship and there's like a picture where you can see like this much of like my stomach.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know, right? I remember somebody tweeted at us and was just like, how can you like consider yourself a Christian? How can you even say you're worshiping whenever you're like making your brothers in Christ stumble with the skin that you're showing with midriff?
Is it true you can't like jump and dance on stage?
Yeah. People would complain about it. Men would.
Right.
And they would say it was too sexual. One of our singles, I Don't Want It. The music video for it, we had like paint dripping. Yeah. And there's one point where I'm singing and so there's like paint dripping down on my face. And we got complaints that it looked like semen.
Just out of curiosity, were these people, have we confirmed that they are aware of what semen? Just would be an interesting follow-up, because as far as I know, if it is hot pink, then you should see a doctor.
It's just wild to me, that kind of stuff. Like, to me, the modern Christian message right now is like, we are nothing, we are but worms. Putting ourselves down so much and then looking at a holy God, like, it's just all about this like huge gap.
While worship music can feel incredibly cathartic, the content of most popular songs is nonspecific and tends to rely heavily on generic formulas and a lot of times water metaphors. So Lauren and I gave ourselves a challenge.
I think that we should write an I Am the Worm worship song. Oh, but I am worm. Sort of as an example of the cadence of Christian music that is easy to match. Yeah. Let's see if we can do it in 10 minutes. Something like, glory, you are not the burden. I will be my savior. You reach out to me.
Oh my gosh. You're like just doing it. Okay, I love it. Okay.
Well, it's what, okay.
No, it's perfect.
I'm not saying it's a great song. I'm just saying that it's the structure of a worship song.
It's wonderful. Though I am not worthy.
Or something like, glory ever undeserving.
It hurts me.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about like, when do the hands go up in the service? And we will praise. Yes. Or, it's sort of like a choose your own adventure of Christian buzzwords.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you rescue me.
Ooh, that's a good
something.
one.
We will praise you. That's when that harmony is full on.
That's when it's full on. Guys, we have a minute to spare. Christian
Sure,
worship song,
we
9
did
minutes
it.
or less.
And what's a song without a music video? Lauren had shared some of the guidelines from an imaging standpoint. Modest, covered up, still trendy, but in like a Mumford & Sons way, minimal movement. We did our best.
Glory, though I am not worthy, new with every morning, you shine down on me. And we will praise you, oh Holy Father, and we adore you, you rescue me. Let's write a song we care about.
Next!
So what do you want to write about?
What you sing is what you meditate on.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're just singing over and over that you are unworthy, like that's your meditation.
To be honest, I don't think I've ever felt like there would ever be a place for someone like me in worship music.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen it.
To me, it's kind of just the opposite of what we just did. I would love to hear a worship song that's saying, I am worthy, or I belong.
So we started writing. And it took longer than 9 minutes. We took a break to get a fresh perspective.
Hey!
Hi.
Go on in.
This is Adam Palmer. He's a songwriter, musician, and former founding member of I Am They, a pop acoustic worship group. After going through a divorce and enduring scorn and criticism from his community, Adam stepped away from the band. He's since been on his own journey, navigating the industry with his own progressive and inclusive faith.
I think without saying it, the average Christian listener wants the people on stage to be super Christians. They've really got the faith thing down. They're really dedicated, and like I read my Bible every single day and night. Like they want that so that they can project that, oh, that exists and I
That
can
it's
strive.
attainable.
It's attainable, and look, they've done it. But really, I found quite the opposite on the road.
Yeah.
Most people are struggling in their faith.
You don't have like a stable lifestyle, so you're always kind of in this flux of being confused with life. So questions and confusions, like part of the daily life when you're touring.
I've heard much talk about the names assigned to different demographics that Christian music targets, and I want to
real.
hear for myself. There's like a family of people.
Yes, excluding the dad. There's Becky. She's the mom that is really spoke to about the lyric of, I broke the heel off my shoe today and the kids are making me late and I have to clean up Cheerios and blah, blah, blah. And then you have Taylor, which is the teenage girl. And she is targeted by heroes of modesty and purity. They want to pour into her this ethic of her sexuality needs to be this sacred prize.
And then what's the other demographic?
Austin. It's the teenage boy. He's listening to the hard rock bands like Skillet and the tough Christian rock bands. You want to be presented safe angst.
Safe angst?
Yeah.
Please, kids, practice angst safely.
Safely.
Safe
God-honoring angst. The demographic focus is primarily based on reaching the mom.
Because she's the one in the car driving around the kids.
Yeah, that's a fascinating implication as well.
Yeah.
Because it speaks into how we view gender roles.
Yep.
And the culture, and what's the mom supposed to be doing? Well, she's supposed to be raising the kids at home.
Right.
Doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for like the mom that's out hustling and is the breadwinner. Like that's not a thing.
Right.
So yeah, it's very one-dimensional.
For me, music is about finding community through shared human experiences. When a song gives voice to something you thought that no one else could possibly understand. But whose hearts are being touched when the music is being written for imaginary, picture-perfect people? Whose stories aren't being heard? I headed out to meet Ricky Brady, Lauren's friend from church. Ricky has spent the majority of his life as a professional worship singer and songwriter. He competed on season 17 of The Voice, and frankly, has one of the best voices I've ever heard.
When I was like 4 and 5 years old, my mom, dad, and sister would sing like at the church, and I would sit with my grandmother and sing every single word that they were singing. My mom homeschooled me so that I could travel with a Christian singing group when I was 16, and that's when I realized this is what I want to do.
Ricky worked in almost every facet of the industry, touring consistently with gospel groups, singing backup for major artists, and even writing and recording under a record deal. But he found that being in the closet was stifling his creativity and motivation. He got off the road and accepted a position as the music leader for a church worship team.
The pastor and I, we saw things differently, voted
Sure.
differently, but we were able to mutually respect each other. And
Did they know that you were gay?
he still believed, I guess, that it was there, but I wasn't pursuing it, any relationship or anything like that. And so I knew that I needed to at least tell the pastor. There was a part of me that hoped, maybe naively, that because of the relationship that I'd had with the church for years, that they would say, okay, well, let's figure it out. You know, we love you, we appreciate your heart, anything like that. And it was not the response.
So you were fired.
I was basically let go, yeah. I was given the option almost to stay quiet, but not the option to stay and be authentic and honest. I've done a lot of session work here in Nashville, mostly for Christian artists, like choral stuff. I'm now not called for those things anymore.
Our second to last interview was with a major Christian music label. We had a fine experience filming, but after we left, it became clear that they were not comfortable with some of the questions I asked. Hint, it was the gay ones. Following a polite and respectful discourse, we've opted not to include the interview. But I won't deny that it's frustrating not to be able to have an open dialogue, and it's hurtful that this interview is perceived to have been controversial.
Honestly, we didn't really learn anything especially new. There wasn't a major reveal in this interview. The only thing I can think of is that I asked about representation in the Christian music industry and if there was space for a gay artist. And the answer that I received was basically like, I don't know, to be determined, we don't talk about it, doesn't really come up. Which honestly, I don't think is totally true, but that was the answer, and we moved on, and there were other questions that were asked as well. So there was a whole phone chain of freak out because I asked a question about representation and inclusion. I think that they don't want to be included in this story. And by not being included, I think that already speaks volumes to what we've heard from other people. It's just pretty sad to think that someone walked away from the conversation we had and was like, I think this could be a problem. Because the question isn't the problem. It's the fact that you're not having the conversation. It's the fact that you're complicit in this exclusion. That's the problem. We are on our way right now to talk with Dan from Jars of Clay. He was the lead singer. If you paid attention to contemporary Christian music at all growing up, like other cool kids like me, then you know that Jars of Clay was a huge band. They were staples of the Christian music industry. I'm curious about what a long career revealed to him about the nature of the industry.
I'm Dan Hasseltine, and I am the singer for the band Jars of Clay.
You're a pretty big band.
We had a good run, I would say. We toured for about 22, 23 years. If you were reading the bio, it would say multi-platinum, 3-time Grammy-winning band Jars of Clay.
Same.
Yeah,
My bio
you know.
too.
In 2014, Jars of Clay faced backlash after Dan sent out a handful of tweets questioning why people were so adamantly opposed to gay marriage. Lifeway and like all the outlets that sold Christian music had pulled our Jars of Clay stuff off the shelves. We had been disinvited from a bunch of the music festivals and things that we were supposed to do that year. Christian radio had pulled our music off. They weren't going to play it anymore. It was the backlash of the Christian community because I was asking questions about how we treat the LGBT community. The fact that I was asking the questions meant that we were unsafe now. That was the moment where it was just like, okay, I guess we're not going to have this conversation with this community of people. And yet, I look at it and I go, I think we were asking the right questions. I don't regret pushing that conversation forward. There weren't any other Christian artists that were having that conversation.
There aren't.
There still really aren't.
There
right?
really aren't.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate because the other thing I learned from it was just there's so many people that have been hurt really badly by the church.
Are there other artists that are sort of where you are but won't say anything publicly because...
Yeah, I've got a list. I'll just...
no, I mean, I just mean that like surely you can't be the only person who's questioning.
A lot of artists that are still in the spotlight, they believe that way, but they're really not allowed to say it. at some point, the value of an artist comes from telling the truth, to lift another person up rather than keep a person oppressed.
It makes me so sad because I think of music that was so there for me, that was like, that felt like so
Right.
comforting.
Yeah.
I almost have to like redo some of my childhood memories because
Yeah.
there are artists that now I think back on the struggles I was going through that I don't know like would be there for me. I just have to wonder, who was it for? Was it for
Yeah.
me in the closet? Like who was it for? Would they have rathered that?
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You
Actually,
don't-
I really am.
You don't need to apologize.
I know. Well, but I as just a, yeah, it pains me that that's how the story plays out.
If you could make sort of a prediction or maybe a speculation on where you see the Christian music industry going, and perhaps what would your hope be?
I think there will be church music, and that's sort of the worship music that exists. And then I think the artists that want to look at the world and describe it, they're just finding their space amongst all the other artists in general music, which maybe is how it always should have been.
The fact that we don't have a Christian artist speaking to the powerful journey of coming out, coming into yourself, who God created you to be, that there isn't that, like, I'll buy that album,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I want to hear that story.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not on a Christian label. They might not be ready for that.
Right.
But it won't make it any less divinely inspired if it finds its way into the world.
I miss worship music. My goal, if I'm gonna start writing worship songs again, is to write songs that I resonate with and that people in my church could sing and you can sing and not be stepping over bad theology or damaging messages.
Sadly, I think the bridge was burned just by coming out, but it's met with a overwhelming amount of peace knowing that I am exactly where I need to be. Everything that I create, music and otherwise, is going to come from a place of complete honesty and oneness with myself and my creator.
We know the resilience of the human spirit. We will always find a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm excited and hopeful for. And that's what I've learned from my time in Nashville. And also letting people know if you're gay, you can still listen to Jars of Clay.
Right, yeah.
Don't worry, it's okay.
Yes.
You never left me, and I believe I'm worthy, and you couldn't be closer. I see the light breaking through, so I'm gonna break free. Oh, you're alive, wide as a river for me. Oh, you're alive, deeper than the ocean, rising for me.
Thank you for watching Refinery29. For more videos, click here, and to subscribe, click here.